Welcome back to another episode of the Erickson Brothers Podcast. My name is Jeff Erickson. I'm your co-host today with my older brother, Matt Erickson. And this is a podcast where we talk about the questions we don't know the answers to, and then also the possible returns of life's investments, whether that's our financial returns or our spiritual returns, relationship, whatever it is. We go over a wide range of different topics here, including faith, family, business, and a lot of other things like that. So, Matt, how you doing, bro? Nice to see you. How you been? How's it going?
Good. Uh, yeah, I think just to finish off that overview of our podcast, and I think what sets us apart is the fact that we're coming at it from the idea, like Jeff said, we don't know the questions we're trying to answer, and we're going along trying to figure this thing out, and we're coming out of a place of transparency and openness, and just seeing where some intentional conversations can take us. So I've been good. I was home for Thanksgiving for a week, which was awesome. Um, back to work. That's going well. Um, Christmas time in the city, jing-a-ling, hear the ring, is great. So yeah,
I
things are
saw I saw
good.
Rockefeller Center is rocking and rolling. I saw that was lit last week.
Yeah, it was lit Wednesday, and so my one of my roommates works at Rockefeller Center, and it usually takes him around 20 minutes to get home. And on Wednesday, it took him over an hour because of all the people and streets that were blocked off. He had to go way uptown and then um, back over. So
Even walking, it took him. Oh,
yeah,
wow. You would think with walking you can kind of like zigzag throughout the crowd, but
well, even with the crowd, there were streets blocked off to where you couldn't walk.
got it.
So, but yeah. What about you? How are things?
Things are good. Thanksgiving went well. Um, Went out to dinner with the aunt and the uncle and the cousin and the grandpa and his lady as well. And my girlfriend came, so it was a really fun time. Went to a nice restaurant here in San Diego, and then for another celebration, we did like this Friendsgiving-esque type of thing at my broker's house here in San Diego. He had about 20 people from the office over, and that was super fun as well. So I had a good little Thanksgiving. I'm excited to go home for Christmas coming up. Just kind of locked in the tickets. Gonna be back in Boulder, Colorado for Christmas, and taking the lady too, which will be good.
Yeah,
It'll be fun to have her.
yeah, it'll be okay.
Yeah.
Um, I'm joking. But yeah, so I guess in terms of Thanksgiving, what was one thing that you were thankful for this year? And just looking on your 2023, um, what have you what have you been thankful for,
Yeah.
and what are you looking forward to coming up next year?
Yeah, one thing I was kind of just like reflecting on is like very rarely do like things go according to plan in terms of like, I don't know, just anything. Like you plan it and like life happens, you know. And I think this year went according to plan on the macro level for a lot of it. I moved out to San Diego. Um, I'm out here at my own house. Kayla moved out here too. I'm working full time at the company I want to work for. I'm able to balance serving at my church and business and working out. I'm able to mix that in as well. And, it's like everything I wanted out of 2023 is kind of came together. So I was just like really grateful. And obviously, like our family's still healthy. We had a lot of stuff starting off the year. A lot of stuff kind of happened with health in our family, and it was a big year for that. But at the end of the day, like there's a lot to be grateful for, and there's a lot of things that on like the macro level that I'm really thankful for, and I can just see God's provision. So that's the first thing that kind of came to my mind.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, I think I I've had an interesting 2023 as well. Like it kind of hardly ever do things go as planned or even better planned. So very, very grateful for that. I think just in my own life, yeah, living in the city I want to live with, in the industry I want to work in, and doing and I hang out with great people every single day, whether that's at work or at church or Bible study, um, or friends. I think the 2023 for me has just been an amazing year, and the reason because of that is just the people I get to spend time with every single day. So yeah, it's it's interesting as we talk about this. It makes me think that um, one, God's provision over our lives is incredible. Very thankful. It is kind of like this plan that we've had, and it makes me think like, okay, going into 2024, where can we set our where can we set our eyes? Where can we set our goals? And where can we what can we say we want to have accomplished at the end of 2024, knowing that 2023 went so well,
Mm.
and uh, it makes you think if you were to shoot higher, what where does that get you? And maybe accomplishing all your goals is a bad thing, like what is
Yeah.
like maybe that means you're not shooting high enough. You're
Wow.
um like maybe that's indicative of you being too safe. So uh, that just makes me think, and uh, another point with that is a lot of companies that I work with, and including my own, like we have our budget for 2023, and it's getting up on the year, and you pretty much know how your year went 11 months in out of 12. And again, we start looking into 2024, and I think just on a macro level, I'm starting to realize that 2024 does not start January 1st, 2024.
Mm.
Or it starts now. Um, and I've been thinking about that on a company level. I'm like, okay, how are we going to position ourselves with clients as they go into the new year? What conversations do we need to be having right now for that? And also, as I had those corporate conversations, I'm thinking, okay, like personally, like what does that mean for me? What do I need to start doing right now to set myself up for 2024? Like I come to think like, oh, a lot of people have New Year's resolutions. I'm like, okay, great. Let's have New Year's resolutions right now. Like, let's not wait to make the changes we want to make. Let's not wait to start accomplishing the things we want to accomplish in 24. Let's do it right now. And I think that you often said over the past few years is that this is separation season. And I
So,
think
dude, so true. I'm like itching to talk about it.
and 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 I've always been like, yeah, whatever, Jeff, like I can, like, whatever, like people work in December, like, but I think really what separation season is not looking back at 2023 as others take their foot off the gas pedal for the rest of this year. I think is separation season for 2024 is right now.
So it's not like extending 2023 for as long as you can. It's like, no, I want to pull the year ahead.
Mm-hmm. And I think whatever works for you, right? I think
Right.
um like you can't look and say, oh, we're 92% of the way through the year, let's just wrap it up and call it a good one. I think there's a balance between finishing this year off strong and then also um, positioning yourself to hit 2024 really hard. So that's been my thought over the past few days, and it's becoming more apparent just how important it is in order to set yourself apart. So
Yeah. No, I think that's good. And just kind of going off that in regards to separation season, like right now, this week is like one of the hardest weeks I've worked all year in terms of like the amount of meetings I'm doing, in terms of the amount of phone calls I'm doing. Cause like at least in my business where you're scheduling appointments and you're talking with clients and whatnot, there's going to be more people that reschedule, and there's going to be more people that don't show, and there's going to be more people that like the no-show rate is actually going to be higher. So you actually have to do more work to get the same results. And I know a lot of people are going to equate that in their mind to being like, oh, not a lot of people want to do appointments around the holidays, which might be true. And then naturally like business slows down. But like, I know a lot of people's mindset is like that, and they're going to slow down because people don't want to do appointments. And like, you can go out and actually start catching people that you want to catch down. If you think about it in like competition for like sports, if you have like two people running a race and both people are sprinting full speed, it's going to be hard to catch somebody if they're sprinting. It's very hard to catch somebody if they're sprinting. But now if that person that you're trying to catch just starts to jog a little bit, right, and you keep sprinting, it's going to be a lot easier to catch them. So that's my mindset. And I am full throttle right now. I was in the office at 8 a.m. this morning. It's a Saturday, and I'm in back-to-backs, and I'm crushing it. We're just 2 days into the month, and we're already getting results. So
Right.
I'm super excited, and there's a lot of good stuff that I want to line up for 2024, so we can knock it out of the park come January 1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the one thing we've talked about a lot is the hours that you put in, that we put in, that those don't matter, right? It's the results.
Mm-hmm.
So you keep it's great that you have that mindset. Oh, okay, now I need to adjust my input in order to receive the same output. And because the input at the end of the day, like we can all say we're doing this and this and this, but if we're not getting that output, then who cares? And I've talked about that analogy with baseball and with work, and I think you're doing the right thing, because like it's important to have these processes in place, and it's important to have that input and position yourself to get the best output. But really that output and that production is the thing that matters.
Yep.
So
Exactly. Exactly. I think that's good. We'll kind of jumping into topics for today. I think that's a great little intro. Is there anything in particular that's on your mind that you want to be able to hit on today? And we can kind of jump right in.
no, I think the definitely one of the things I wanted to talk about was going from 2023 and into 2024, and just some like practical like things that I can do to start doing that. So I'm wondering, like, what are you doing specifically that's leading to have an output in 2024, and where are you doing, how are you able to do something different now than you weren't in November or October or May or June, July? Like, how do you feel like that there's that now that you're working harder in December, do you feel like there's been slack earlier in the year that you could have picked up? Or what are your thoughts?
A lot of thoughts. A couple things. One thing at the end that triggered my thought is when I was doing 75 hard. 75 hard is a 75-day mental toughness program where you have to get in 2 workouts, you have to drink a gallon of water, you have to read 10 pages. And I realized that like you just do much more throughout your day. And then when you get off 75 hard, you realize how unproductive that you were when you weren't doing it, right? You realize how much more you could actually do in a day after you get off. I think that's like the biggest thing. It's not necessarily the drinking the gallon of water that's going to be the biggest benefit. It's like, man, I now have another hour of my day instead of watching Netflix or scrolling as long. Right now, I can actually be more productive and use that towards my work, or use that towards growing a skill set, or start reading a book or listening to a podcast or whatever it is. So, yes, I think it's big because I look at productivity, like the harder you work, the more you realize the more you could have worked before. So that's number one. Number two, biggest thing in this business, and something that I've really worked on my mindset with, just at least the business that I'm in, is just the volume mindset. Right, the volume mindset, like how many reps can you get in? And I think that also applies to fitness. Like, how many curls can I do? How many bicep curls can I do? How many miles can I put on my shoes? right? How many, I don't know if it necessarily translates directly to spirituality, because it's not, spirituality is not like transactional. Like there's a lot of other things in fitness and business that are very transactional, but in regards to business, my mindset is just like, man, how many calls can I make? How many appointments can I do? Like if I'm doing 3 or 4 appointments on a Saturday and maybe 1 or 2 on a Sunday, and everyone else stops Friday afternoon, like, man, that's 4 appointments a week, right? That's another 200 appointments a year, right? So I start to think in my mind that like, I'm going to start catching some people. And again, that's a big confidence boost for me. Just like the volume mindset, like I'm going to make calls on Saturday. Like nobody makes calls on Saturday, and I'm going to make calls. So, that's how I set myself up, and it's been working really well. We've had literally some record breaking months in the last couple months, and some categories we're excited to say, it's because my girlfriend's actually able to help me out with a lot of them. We're leading the company right now, and actually some categories our team. So we're crushing it right now. So I'm pretty excited.
Good, good. Yeah, I think the that's really important, and I think one of the now that I'm over a year into my job, younger people have started to reach out to me and just saying like, "Hey, man, like, would love to hear more about what you're doing, and hear more about the job. And do you have any advice? Let me know." So I've been talking to people in college, and just they're seeing internships at my company, or they're seeing job applications, and they're wanting to network. And um, I was talking to an individual a few days ago, and I just said how important, like I was sympathizing and empathizing with him, is because getting a job in investment banking in New York City is very, very difficult. And it, it just takes a lot of hours of networking and reaching out to people, and there's really no like clear path. But I just told him, it's like, dude, you're gonna have to reach out to hundreds of people. You're going to have to be intentional
Yeah.
with all of them. You're going to have to do that. Um,
How many,
and
just real quick, how many companies do you think you applied for before you got your first offer? Just
I
ballpark.
mean,
100?
I don't know, probably, yeah, I would say in between 75 and 100. And I think initially my strategy was, oh, I see a job post and they want me to like attach my resume. Great. Like that counts as one. But as I learned, it's like doesn't that doesn't cut it. Like you need to attach the resume, attach the cover letter, reach out to the people you know on LinkedIn, reach out to the people in the industry, try to make those connections. And it takes a lot of work, and it all could be uh, futile, but you have to put yourself in a position to get lucky. And that's all a volume game. And so especially, I think what we're talking about, it's the same. Like there is, I saw this, um, this LinkedIn post, and it was talking about like there were like two like spinning wheels, and like one was like, it had one section of the wheel was like success, and the other few sections were um like failure. And then on the other wheel was all the sections were success and none were failure. And the guy was talking about how like there's the in like this is like what you can get when you work hard. Like a lot of things open up and become opportunities that weren't if you didn't work hard. And I'm paraphrasing, I scrolled through it. um but anyway, I was like, hold on, like that is not the case at all. Like just because you work hard does not guarantee success. And I thought of it more as like, okay, like a better way to look at it was, okay, you've got one slice of the wheel that has your success, right? And then 90% of the time it's going to be a failure, not success. And the reality of how most things are, like you're going to fail, you will get unlucky. And but the only thing that determines like the winners from the losers is how many times you spin that wheel.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just volume. So and some people are just willing to go back to the drawing board, go back to the phone calls, go back to um, whatever it is to make sure they can have a chance at that wheel as many times as possible, because um, like success is not guaranteed for everybody. So yeah,
That's good.
those are my thoughts. Yeah.
Cool. Cool. I like that. I like that. And yeah, I mean, I was just thinking like almost like the volume applies to just about everything. Like even like applying to colleges, I was just thinking about like how many colleges we even looked at and we
Mm-hmm.
even toured. Like there's probably like 10 or 15 colleges in just California that we looked at together and we like walked
Mm-hmm.
through and whatnot. And I was just like, man, like even like almost at every stage in our life, it's like you have to have this big outreach to kind of like funnel everything down to actually
Right.
figure out your path.
Right. And I think the volume of outreach just lead like you have to put yourself in a position to get lucky. And like that's all it is. Because there's so many things that you can't control. So like whether like with baseball, it could be like roster sizes, it could be coaches, it could be location, it could be price, it could be um personality of the team. Like I know like there are there are teams and coaches that look for people that are certain personalities. Like it doesn't matter how good you are, you're probably not going to get a look if you don't fit their mesh of the person that they're looking for. And it's same with companies, same with a lot of things. And like as the applicant or as the recruit or as the individual reaching out, like you'd have no idea that you are going to be a fit or not. But there's just so many things that you can't control. So
Do you
uh,
think do you think the volume can apply at all with our spirituality and with our faith? Do you think like I know like I was just like mentioning that like oh
yeah,
passing like
yeah,
as it came up I was like it probably doesn't apply because it's not as like y equals x so
right,
to speak. But like do you think there's
right.
any correlation there at all?
Yeah, I do. I think the it, I think one throughout the Bible, it's very clear that we are supposed to spend time in the Lord, with the Lord in the Bible every day, and it's just like find something every day. It's like it's not every hour, it's not once in the morning, once at night, or it's
Mhm.
not it's not once a week. It's just like the Bible's pretty clear. Like, hey, we want to be in the Word once a day, and then throughout our days, constantly um, in conversation with God through prayer or through reminders. That's one thing our Bible study talks about a lot is just starting off your day with spending time in the Lord intentionally, and then that setting yourself up to one be more like Christ throughout the rest of your day, and then two like I've just been trying to take a step back in random moments and say like, oh Lord, like here I am in New York City, like thank you for elevators, thank you for air
Mhm.
conditioning, like thank you for good friends, thank you for good bosses, thank you for the food that I'm eating it so I can nourish myself and continue to um, spread your light like that. Like there's so many things that um, we can be thankful for throughout the day. So I've just been trying to um, be more in the be intentionally in the Word in the morning and spending time in the Bible. And for me, that's been just reading one chapter a day, along with um, a little devotion that's separate. So I'm just been reading one chapter a day, and right now I'm in Mark. Um, and then I'm also going through Ephesians a little bit more intentionally with our Bible study. Um, so it is, I think it is important, like from, like, I don't want to say it's definitely not volume because it's just so much more. It's so much more than that. It's
Yeah.
like, but like if as Christians we're called to have to be in relationship with our Father, with Jesus Christ, and the only way we can do that is to be spending time with Him. Like,
The very word disciple comes from discipline, which comes from being consistent.
yeah,
So it's like
yeah,
it's almost like it's built into it is like being consistent with
hmm,
faith is what it looks like to be a disciple. Like
yeah,
you become like that's who you are. Like it now becomes like their identity almost.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
man, good
and
stuff.
yeah. I one going off that, like, I think for me, I think one of my weaknesses is like sometimes I'll let's say I'll sacrifice I'll sacrifice quality for quantity sometimes. Um, like that could be like at the gym. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do a 2 hour workout, or I'm gonna go to work and I'm gonna do this much work, and I'm gonna keep on grinding and grinding and grinding. But one thing that I've been more intentional with lately is just being being able to slow down and making sure that that quality is better. It could be reps in the gym. It could be like today cleaning my room. I was like, like it's okay if I don't do this perfectly, but I was like, no, like let's be disciplined and like just go that extra step in having that attention to detail and making sure that the bed that I'm making is perfect. Like like and because my personality allows, I'm like, oh, it's good. I made my bed. I I did that. It's good, right? I'll take that. But now I've been more intentional and be like, no, like good is not good enough anymore. It needs to be better, and it needs to just I I've found that since my weakness, to say something is good enough, I've been more intentional about saying, okay, like maybe it's actually not good enough. Like I'm gonna just take the extra second to make my bed, or I'm gonna take the extra second to read something over that I'm sending out, like a third or fourth time. Like usually if I do it second time, oh, I read it over a second time, read it over a third time, I'm good. But it's one thing now is just like, okay, like I gotta read over it a fifth time, like, or a sixth time, just like one more time to see if like I can get out anything that I missed the first few times, or just being so much more intentional in the detail. So um, I don't even know where I started with that, but
Well,
that's
going off of it, no, I think it's good, and I've been tracking you the whole time. So, there's this book that I started reading, and it was encouraged by the broker here in our office, and the book is called "From Good to Great," and super
mhm,
popular business book. I'm sure you probably even heard of it, but it basically just talks about how good is the enemy of great. Like doing anything okay is the enemy of doing anything amazing, right? And being average is the actual thing that's going to deter you the most from being exceptional. Because most people, they get to where something's like they get that approval, or they get to the point where they're able to provide for their family, they have a house, they have food in the fridge, they get to a sustainable living, and then they no longer want to improve, or they no longer have that growth mindset. So that just reminds me of the book. I want to be able to finish the book, have not yet, and I really really like the whole concept of um, good being the enemy of great, not bad
yeah,
being the enemy of great, but like
mhm,
okay and mediocre. And I think
yeah,
that's if one thing Matt and I have in common, it's like we want to be growing in every single area of our life, right? It's not just our income, it's not just the business we want to be able to run, it's not just our fitness, it's every single area, right? We want to be better in every single area overall, so that's one thing I'll say.
yeah, yeah. And I think the as I'll take the opposite approach for a second. I think that sometimes when we're looking to complete or do things, like, well, I'll say making my bed, for example. Like I could approach making my bed from the standpoint of, oh, I'm not going to, um I'm not going to uh make sure that all my sheets are perfectly lined up, and I'm going to make sure that all my pillows are perfectly symmetrical, and so if I can't do it perfectly, then I'm not going to do it at all. And I think that is also is a big inhibitor to why there's a lot of progress, is because people have these excuses of, like, including myself. Like, I'll say, oh, I can't do it perfectly, so I shouldn't do it at all. But I think, no, like, there's also the saying, let's not a good thing get in the way, let's not a great thing get in the way of doing a good thing. And sometimes, just to get the ball rolling, we need to do that good thing, because we know the great thing, it isn't attainable at the moment. It's just, um like,
Yeah.
with, like, or with, like, creating a new idea for work. We're like, oh, like, if we start tracking things like this, then we can also do it like this and this and this. And they're like, oh, that'd be too much, that'd be a lot. And, like, one thing that more senior level people at the bank have shared is, like, let's not a great thing get in the way of doing a good thing. Like, there are things, that there are capabilities, and there are applications that sometimes just need to start out as good, um,
Hmm.
and you got to get it going. So, um,
Yeah, and I think they both can apply, although that might sound like the devil's advocate argument. I think there's actually an overlapping concept of like improvement, right?
mhm,
Like going from 0 to 1, right? And then 1 to 2, right? From
yeah,
nothing to good, and then
hmm,
improving, like not stopping, but improving, right? If you don't have anything going on, yes, improving doesn't look like great. That's not
yeah,
step 1, right?
yeah,
That's not step 1, right? So I think there is
right,
some overlap there.
yeah. No, that's a good point. Like, you gotta start somewhere, um, and that's that's another saying too. Um, so, yeah, yeah, good point. So,
Cool.
um, one book that I've been reading recently is, Skip the Line. And it I'm 5 chapters into it, but it's basically how, um you can get it's basically refuting Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours rule.
Cool.
And, so he, broadly, from a 30,000 foot view, he doesn't like 10,000 hours, because he's like, I don't have time for 10,000 hours. Like, I need to figure it out now. So how does he skip the line? And one thing he does, he treats it like 10,000 experiments. And for him, an experiment is there, he has a few, like, qualifications that make a good experiment, like low risk, and, um like, easy to accomplish. And it's kind of like, and, like, the most recent chapter was just like borrowing time. And he was saying, this author, where's the book? I don't have it in front of me right now, but he was saying that he'll, in industries, that he's looking to get into, this guy's just a renaissance businessman. He's a writer, comedian, has done, like, all these different things. And one thing that he does to skip the line is that he'll call people asking for advice, and, asking for knowledge in their industry, because he feels like, if somebody else has put in their 10,000 hours and they can teach me what I already know, what they already know, like, I no longer need to put in that same 10,000 hours. I need to do the 10,000 experiments where I'm talking to PhDs in this, I'm talking to PhDs here, I'm talking to businessmen in this industry, or experts in this industry. and skipping the 10,000 hours in order to um, get to where he wants to go, and just using people's knowledge that they found out, not in a negative way, but just understanding how much information people already have, and this 10,000 hour rule um, might be good, but it's also like pretty toxic in the fact that it does take a lot of time, and there are people that have gone through it before you, and there is information out there.
Like you don't, and that's like I'm literally taking notes because I think that's really cool. Something I haven't heard before. Um, and it's like you don't need to have the excuse in your mind on why you're not getting results because you haven't put in the hours. It's like, no, actually, you can go out and get the results a lot faster than
Yeah.
10,000 hours if you just focus on the experiments and you focus on getting advice from people who have done the 10,000 hours.
Right. Right. And I think
That's good.
as I continue to read, there will be other aspects and chapters to that. But um, like one thing that I think of in my own like professional life, I'm thinking like, okay, now um, I right now I'm on this capital markets desk and working there, and then eventually may want to pivot into another industry and work for like a private equity company, and just trying to figure out like, okay, what do I need to do in order to get to that point? Because I over the past few months, it's been clear to me that that's what I want to do long term. So I'm thinking like, okay, how do I skip the line in this private equity industry, because so many people want to go into it. It's super competitive. It's super.
Mhm.
Some would even say it's it's a saturated market of people in private equity, because it is interesting to a lot of people. People like it, and
Is that
um,
is that in banking, in investing, corporate investing, all that? I guess finance industry in general. Is that top of the food chain? Is private equity the creme de la creme
yeah.
above like
Well,
banking
I'll
and investment fund on all like above everything?
right. I would say um conventionally in the industry, yes. Right. A lot of people, especially who start like on a traditional investment banking desk, or whether they're in like sector banking, or they do leverage finance at whatever, restructuring at this bank, whatever, a lot of people want to go into private equity. So I'm thinking like, okay, like that's something I want to do. And now I'm reading this book. Okay, how do I skip the line of going into private equity to where being a private equity analyst is not a glorious thing? You're going into data rooms, you're doing a lot of modeling. It's that in itself is not why I want to do it.
You're in the trenches.
Yeah, like a lot of people are in the trenches. So like, okay, how do I skip the line? And I'm like, okay, if I were to start the reasons why I like private equity is because of improving companies, improving businesses, just maximizing efficiency in the market, maximizing efficiency for the company, for the people that are employed. And then I also like, so that's one reason why I like it. And another reason is I really like the risk. Because like if you're not able to perform, then you lose money out on your investment. And when you're investing in companies, these are hundreds of millions of dollars usually. Traditional like middle market companies, they're hundreds of $1 million. And if you're not able to provide value to clients and customers as a company, whatever it is, could be anything. If you're not able to provide value, then you lose. The company goes out of business, people lose their jobs, you don't make any money. There's no guarantee on anything. Um, so I really like the risk of it. Um, so the operational efficiency too, and just I think that the knowledge as well, just being able to learn as much as I can in different things. So anyway, for me to skip the line, I was like, okay, why don't I start my own thing? Right? Like if I were to go out and start my own company, like that's skipping the line. Like I would own it, right? I would be able to take risk where I want to. I would be able to look at it and improve it and grow it up. And I'm also taking that risk of like if it doesn't work out, then I lose. Um, so I'm like, okay, like that's pretty much skipping the line. I'm gonna see the returns on that. I'm gonna be more involved in the process if I do my own thing. But that's a lot harder.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's skipping the line, but skipping the line at a place where when you do skip the line, you can be able to you're like you know what to do at the front of the line.
Right, right.
You got to know that you got to know what position you're skipping, and you got to know what it is that you actually skipped, right?
Mm,
Because like
yeah.
maybe sometimes that line is going to teach you the skill set that you need in order to be at the front. But like
Yes. I mean, I think that probably.
sometimes waiting in line, you're going to learn a whole bunch of stuff that you need to
Mhm.
know to when you get to the front of the line. But at the same time, maybe you don't. Maybe there's maybe I don't know. Maybe there's ways to kind of
No,
speed that
I
up.
mean, yeah, that's a good point. So like that's why it's important to be talking to people, be learning from others, and trying to borrow their time, borrow their 10,000 hours,
Mhm.
and skip that line. So um, it definitely is a lot riskier, but like we'll see. Um, so I think like that's kind of like this itch I've had. I haven't done anything with it, but like that's kind of where a lot of my uh subconscious thoughts are at the moment.
And we'll get there. We'll start a company. I know. I mean, I still have a goal of running $1 billion real estate portfolio with you, regardless
Mhm.
of if that's a goal of yours or not. That's still something I want to be able to achieve. And
Uh-huh.
I mean, I think when you think in what is your life going to look like 30,
Mhm.
40, 50 years down the road, you can do the things now and actually get you there. So, um, yeah, we've talked about that before. It's like, okay, we know what it is we want to do. Like we know we're going to run the private equity company. We know we're going to want to be able to ones that call the shots, that have teams that are working with us and employing people to run the numbers for us, employing people to be more like the boots on the ground, so to speak. So
Mhm.
um, knowing
Mhm.
knowing how to do what it is that we're hiring people to do is something that's crucial, I think. Um,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a huge task. Um, but
yeah, cool.
I
Go
think
ahead and get into
a
the
lot of it
equity
is taking
company.
that risk because people say, "Oh, I'm not going to do this now. I'm going to do this in 3 to 4 years." But like, what? Why are you going to be in a better position 3 to 4 years from now? Like, you don't know that.
Mm,
Sometimes you just got to jump in and figure it out.
yeah, 100%.
So it's it's a lot, and like, yeah. I mean, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, the benefit of the audience is that we are literally just completely being transparent with where exactly we're at. And talk
Mhm.
about skipping the line, man. If you guys are just following us for the next couple of years, you guys are going to be able to skip a whole lot of people. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, yeah.
You guys are going to skip a whole lot of people just because we're getting all the knowledge too, and we're filtering it through the way we see the lens in which we see the world. So, um, yeah, obviously we're trying to skip the line, but like a concentrated version of that is you guys can listen to us, and if you guys want to achieve some of the things that we're achieving, then hey, you can start
Yeah,
what we're doing.
right. And maybe people can skip the line in a few years by doing exactly what we didn't do. Like, who knows? who they're like, okay, didn't work out for them. They had this podcast. They told us all about what they did, and they were pretty detailed about it. So let's not do that.
Hey, the end goal is
Like maybe the line.
the end goal is going to be achieved though. At the end of the day, is somebody is going to benefit, whether it's going to be from our successes or from our failures. Benefit will occur.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. I think that as I have been reading this book about skipping the line, um, and just like had this itch, um, about like I don't know the main reason why I have this itch is because like not playing. I think not playing a sport anymore. I find myself in the stands a lot. I'm no longer on the field. I'm in the stands a lot, whether I'm actually in the stands at sporting events or I'm one of 100 people at a meeting, um, or I'm. It could be a lot of things. I feel like I'm like one of many right now, and I do not like that at all. Like I don't like being part of the 50,000 people that go to watch the 20 people. I don't like being the 100 people in the room that listen to the 2 people. And I think this itch that I have is just going to like continue to grow and grow until I do something about it. Um,
So you start scratching.
yeah, I'll I'll figure it out. So yeah, I think that's like the main reason why I find myself thinking about this a lot, or whether it's skipping the line, is like I can't be um or I just don't like being in the stands. I don't like being a viewer. I don't like having a passive role. I don't like not being able to stand out. So that's kind of where
So
the motivation comes from.
hot take here. I think for people that are actually competitive and people that actually have that drive within them to want to be in the arena, right, so to speak, want to be on the playing field, want to be in the battlegrounds. I think strictly being compensated based on the time that you put in is not like if you're only paid based on clocking in and out, you're not actually competitive. All right, you're not actually somebody that wants to fight. You're not actually somebody that wants to win really big because you can't control the end result. Right? Obviously, if you can get bonuses based on production or you can get promotions or whatever, then like it allows you to be competitive. But simply clocking in and clocking out isn't competitive. And that might be a hot take. That might be controversial for some people that are more employee facing positions right now. But
Yeah.
I'm a big believer that like, man, competitive people, they're gonna be in a position, they're gonna be in a place where they can start separating themselves from the work they put in, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think too for people who like have hourly jobs, or for me with a salary, I think, well, one, like sometimes you can separate yourself um in ways other than just the compensation, like that's one thing that I'm trying to do is separate myself within a team, and separate, and even though my pay is going to be the same every 2 weeks, and then like I'll get a bonus here later, but the I can separate myself by the work I do, the creativity I have towards the thoughts I bring in, towards the amount of knowledge I'm taking in or reading. Like I'm separating myself that way. Um, and it's not necessarily clocking. I mean, I don't have an hourly job either. Like I work until the work is done. And like, that's the reality of it. So I think it's, you have the mindset of clocking in and clocking out, you're never going to get, that's not competitive. But I think even for somebody who does clock in and clock out, they can be competitive within that, and they can,
Within
and,
within other ways outside of the
right, we can, like the employee can separate themselves in how they do their work,
Mhm.
uh, and that. So I think there's a lot of, it's not black and white like most things. So
Yeah, and that might just be because I'm in a business where it literally is like that's the scoreboard. Is like it is based on cash flow and it is based on how many accounts you can set up. Like that it's the business that I'm in, and that's like the scoreboard we're based on. Um, but like again, not everyone has that mindset. And again, I like kind of being in it. That's just how I think about it, just because like that's the environment I'm a part of.
Right. And I would say it's almost harder for people that are in those hourly positions because they can't see the result on a week to week basis. They have to see it on a year to year basis. And that takes a lot of patience, but I think there's that you can still be competitive within that. It's just there's a lot more delayed gratification.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
definitely. Definitely. Cool. Well, a lot to digest. We covered a lot of different things. Um, kind of finishing up for this week. Any closing thoughts you had on those topics, or should we dive into our mindsets on investing?
I think we're good. I think we covered it. Yeah, we'll see if people can look to um our podcast as a way to do something or not do something. We'll see.
Yeah, and especially too as we start to make some more moves. I know at least for myself, like I don't have any like new things to report in terms of like the moves that I'm making, so to speak. But like that's just because we're at like week to week, like doing stuff week to week. Everything's like very micro, but like on a macro level, coming back in the next year, the next 2, 3, 4 years, we're gonna really be able to break down why we're doing what it is that we're doing, and that's why I encourage people to follow along because man, it's gonna be a fun life we're gonna live, and man, you guys are in for a ride if you just listen out. So I'm excited. Anything new when it actually comes to your perspective on how you invest? The only two resources that you have, time and money. Any new perspectives on that as we finish up?
Yeah, when with this Bible study going through Ephesians, there's a big emphasis on, or one of the things that Paul is saying in his letter is that you need to. He talks a lot about maximizing your time and being efficient with your time, and looking at it from that perspective. He's saying like, don't. He's like, don't get drunk. Don't be doing things that fools do. Don't like I should have this in front of me. But it's look. I was reading it from the perspective of being efficient with our time, being efficient with our production, and like that's how we be efficient with our relationships too. Is that being intentional through that? So like just having wisdom around efficiency, including like who we hang around with, what we do, what we don't do, who we don't hang around with. So just been paying more attention to that. And I think have I think I'm on the right track. Um, but there's always room for improvement and sanctification in that as well. So one of my before I started reading this book, I changed my wallpaper on my phone to the Bible verse that I've brought up a few times, Matthew 7:13 to 14. And that is, enter by the narrow gate, for the gate is wide, for for the gate is wide and the way is easy that leads to destruction, and those who enter it are many, for the gate is narrow and the way is hard that leads to life. Um uh and those who find it are few. So interesting that like a lot of things are like lining up in this in the last few weeks of things that I begin to think about. Like I think that Bible verse hits the nail on the head of skipping the line. Enter through the narrow gate. For those that enter through the narrow gate are few. I think that's that's pretty much skipping the line. How do we what does that mean as Christians? Be
I think
intentional with.
I think it's for me that's pretty straightforward in terms of what that means for Christians is like you can't follow the way of the world. You
Yeah,
can't follow your earthly desires. I mean, that's makes sense.
yeah, yeah, love God, love people. That's uh, at this point in our life and in history, that's the way of the few. So yeah, that's how I've been thinking about it.
Cool. I like that. I like that. One thing I'm gonna really do some deeper subconscious thought on is the skip the line concept because my perspective on the time that I put in is like I just want to get as like I want to clock in as much time under my belt. Like I want to get as much reps in terms of like the hours I'm putting in. And like I've always associated like reps in business with like the amount of hours that you're working at your business. Um, but you're challenging me to think about it in a different light in terms of it's just more experiments and getting advice from the people who have done the hours.
Right.
um, I
And
think
like,
I think that might be a mindset shift for me on investing.
well, I think for you now is have your own you have your own reference bank of hours, right? Like, let's say that, I don't know, how many hours do you think you've put into your job over the past year? Like 80 a week for 50 weeks, 4,000.
70, 75 times 50. Yeah, 3,750.
Okay, so 4,000. Like, I think for you, that could mean, okay, I put 4,000 in. What have been the most productive 400? How do I how do I take that and turn that into my 4,000 for 2024? Like, I need to maximize those 400. What was I doing during the top 10%? How do I eliminate the bottom 90%?
I know what I have to do.
What?
I know. I know that answer. And I don't need to that's like I don't need to dive into my thought process behind all that, but like I now know what I have to do.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens next week. But like, that's, yeah, like I wrote an article at work that was sent to the bank, um and it was the week before, it was the Monday before Thanksgiving, and it was called trim the fat, cut the turkey, and is pretty much about, and it, it was, a lot of it was like where you put your time and like where are specifically where are investors putting their money, how are they allocating resources in debt markets right now. And I got a lot of it was like there was some like satirical aspect of it because I was talking about like Thanksgiving food, but I was also relating it to uh, just investors allocating their time and their money, what they're doing with it. So I think for us, we've put in our, let's say, 4,000 this year. We've each probably put in around 4,000. Like, you definitely have more freedom to maximize the 400.
Hmm,
Um,
100%.
but I think for me, like, I could probably maximize. Um, I can definitely maximize a lot of aspects of that 4,000 to where next year, if I put in 4,000, I'm going to accomplish what I would have done this year in 8,000. So that's another piece too. So
Cool. Well, that's good. And man, that was a good pod. There's a lot of stuff that I literally had to take notes on because I was like, I'd never heard someone describe it like that. So I took some good stuff away, and hopefully we're able to kind of help somebody learn something new or change their perspective on a way we go about thinking about these topics. And yeah, I'm excited for the rest of the year. I'm excited for 2024. It's going to be good, and I'll see you back in Boulder, Colorado.
yeah, a few weeks from now.
A couple weeks out, we'll knock out another pod in between then. But other than that, this pod is over, and peace out.
See ya.
Yep.